Thus saith the Lord that formed thee, O Israel, I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, Give them up, and to the south, Do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Zola Levitt presents Signs of the End.
Shalom. Hello again. Well, continuing our discussion of the signs of the end, yesterday was the signing in Cairo of the, I don't know what, final agreement to the Israelis to withdraw from Jericho and Gaza, signed by Mr. Arafat after some tantrums and Prime Minister Rabin. And we are now on a new phase. It looks like the Israelis will seriously withdraw, and the Palestinians, when they're ready, will start taking the place over, moving in police and border guards and so on. With us tonight to comment on this most relevant development is the West Bank settler, our friend Joni Arden, who lives with her husband Stu out in the West Bank. You've seen us interview these folks before. They are our hosts often at the settlement of Anatote near Jericho and near Jerusalem. So, Joni, thanks for coming out and helping us out. And you're here at a very critical time. It was just yesterday that this latest agreement is signed. So what do you think?
I don't think too well about this at all. In fact, I was deeply saddened when I saw the signing and quite disturbed. I don't think anyone's really ready for it. And just because they want to push a date on this event doesn't make it reality. Even Arafat isn't ready with his police to take over. This morning on the news, they said, well, let's keep the Israelis there maybe 21 more days. In other words, let's release as many Palestinians from the jails as we can. There's supposed to be up to 5,000 released in the next 5 weeks. And if we can get at least 3,000, let's say, released from the jails, and the Israelis are still there, and the police haven't taken over, the Palestinian police haven't taken over quite yet, they're in a better position with all the Palestinian terrorists that are being released from the jails. They've just got more men fighting for them then. They're in a, I don't think that they want to take over quite yet, the Palestinian police.
Want to have some more fun. In your view, there is no peace process, is there?
There's a peace process between governments and leaders, but I don't think there is in the day-to-day people. I mean, I'm waiting for the day that I will see the Palestinians be as strong, and what we have groups in Israel that are so far on the left that they're peace now, and I don't see that on the Arab side, anyone standing up for peace now. Where are they? If they are sincere, and we're talking about the everyday people, everyday life, where are they? Why don't they join the hands with the people, the Israeli people, the Jewish people that are saying peace now, and walk with them?
That's interesting. I hadn't noticed, but you're right. It's only Israelis who are out there marching for peace, and not Arabs at all. Do the Arabs want peace, or do they just simply want Israel?
I think we know they want Israel. I think they've stated it very clearly over the years. It's been their goal since day one, and they haven't stopped.
You think this peace thing on the Arabs' part is just a step toward getting control of all Israel?
Obviously.
Why is it? You say obviously. Why is it nobody in the world can figure this out? The New York Times can't figure it out. The Clinton administration can't figure it out. The Rabin administration can't figure it out. You know more about it than I do. You live there every day, but it seems to me nothing has changed. The Arabs wanted 4 million dead Israelis 20 years ago or 30 years ago when all this terrorism started. And no matter what it takes, today, sitting at a peace table, they want 4 million dead Israelis.
Well, if not dead, at least out of the country.
Out of there because they don't belong in the Middle East. Even though the Israelis were there by far first.
Absolutely. The synagogues are being found in excavations all the time, hundreds, thousands of years ago. It's not just something suddenly in 1967 we have land because of a war that they started.
Yeah, this has brought out too what's called occupied territory. It really was a defensive war on Israel's part. Even the New York Times, in all its anti-Semitism, says it was a defensive war. I have an editorial today. I'm going to refer to it. It couldn't be helped. And occupying the territory is, in the Israeli mind, a buffer zone. It just keeps the maniacs further from Jerusalem, is in their minds. And then it's characterized by the Arabs as some kind of cruel occupation and taken up by the media in a steady drumbeat until we come to today when the Israelis are supposed to back off of what's supposed to be other people's land. But like you say, the excavations produce synagogues of Joshua's time in the West Bank, altars, constructions of King David, Dead Sea Scrolls from 200 years before Christ, commenting on even older Hebrew manuscripts deep, deep within the West Bank. Question, how does it become Palestinian territory?
Because they said it. Only because they say it, they think it has to be. But you can keep saying it, but the facts are the facts.
When did the Palestinians, by that name, when did that culture begin?
Good question. I don't know.
I don't either. I think it's, with all due respect, I think it's a PR man's invention. I don't think there was such a culture in the past.
That's why I say I don't know. I mean, it's. I've never seen any evidence that there was a culture there of Palestinians.
Let me ask you something that represents some part of our audience I know they would like to ask you. Do you have a machine gun?
No, I do not. And I am in Judea, which is a so-called West Bank. The situation is getting quite bad that most settlers feel that they do need guns. I still don't have one. There are a lot of settlers that don't have guns.
You personally want to kill some Arabs?
I don't personally want to kill anyone, Arab, Jew, Christian. I don't want to kill anyone.
Because the accusation comes all the time. Well, the PLO says that you have to take these guns away from the settlers. They have them there to kill the Arabs because of Baruch Goldstein and Hebron.
Okay, and wonderful Baruch Goldstein wasn't even born a Sabra. He was an American that happened to immigrate. I also happened to immigrate to Israel. I think it's pretty sad that they look at this one person who wasn't even born there and take him as if that's all the Israelis are feeling this way. It's a very sad thing. I think the Israelis have a wonderful thing that I have never seen anywhere else. They can be mad, they can scream, they can yell. They're not touching you. And you get an American man, they usually are touching the next person.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've talked for years about how between Israel and America's the violent country. Tourists came with me to Israel during the Persian Gulf War, knowing that it was safer in the streets of Tel Aviv than it was in Dallas or New York or Los Angeles. And it was. With missiles falling on us, it's safer. And the American in the Israeli mind is the guy who puts his hand, he's the guy who shoots you, he's the guy that kills you. And the Israelis, yeah, they argue, but they don't touch. That's kind of a rule. You're knowledgeable about situations, of course, in the West Bank. What's the future out there? What's it look like to you?
Not good.
For the Israelis?
The Israelis, of course, it's not good.
So,
I think there's a very interesting thing. Rabin always stated that he was never willing to give up any territory because of security reasons. Security was utmost importance. But if he had to, he would give up the territories for peace. Well, to me, security and peace are hand in hand. You're not going to have the one without the other. And I think that's also pretty obvious within the Bible. Whenever you feel secure, you feel peace. And you can walk in that. But I don't think that the Arabs are offering a true peace, so there's not a true security. So if Rabin wants to give away the territories for peace, then why doesn't he want to give away Jerusalem for peace? We didn't get Jerusalem until 1967.
At least all of it.
Yes. So it's the same question. Where is he going to draw that line? I don't think that it's so easy to say you're going to give up one section and not another section.
Will you vote against Rabin?
With every beat of my heart. And hear that good, Rabin, and anyone else in his government that happens to be listening to this. I am not just one. I am many in the country that feel the same way. You say the people are behind you. I'm not. Come visit me in my home, Rabin. I offer that to you. I'm not voting for you.
I think that was clear. How about
Good.
the Arabs in Israel? They're going to vote too. Will they vote for Rabin?
Well, I think they're going to vote for whatever situation will make their situation better.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what happened with the Russians. I think the major reason that Rabin got into power was because of the Russian immigrants. They were needing jobs and were being promised jobs. And I'm sure they're beginning to be quite sorry for believing.
Gee, where have I heard all this before? The candidate promises this and that, especially jobs, relief, economic, and so on. And we trust him, and then when he gets there, he forgets the promise.
Trust is a major word here. I think that we all too often put our trust in man. We don't put it in God. And I think if we want to make any headway in our lives, it has to be with God in control.
Well put. We'll be back right after this.
Hamadat Israel, you are lovely, Israel. Tamid hayita havati, you have always been my love. Ken ahavti otach, yes, I've loved you, Israel. Ki ohev Hashem min hashamayim, as he loves you from above.
The land of Israel, Israel my love, is like no other land in the world. We're bound for the promised land. We're going back to Israel. And the people who have joined us on past tours say it's an experience they will treasure for the rest of their days.
I think every Christian needs to come here and just sense the same things that I guess all of them that have felt going before us, because we've heard it said that your whole life will be changed if you come to the Holy Land and you can relate more to where Jesus was in the temple and all the great and mighty things that he did. And I can now join them in saying everyone needs to come to the Holy Land.
Well, it's one thing to read the words and then to be able to look out here and see Jesus walked across this land, and it brings it all to a sense that it really happened.
This is my second tour with Zola. The first one was in June of 1984, and it was a beautiful tour. It was so lovely, and I love Israel so much I had to come back and see it again and live it again.
Come with us to Israel and walk where Jesus walked. Let us break bread together in Jerusalem. I've traveled through Israel dozens of times. Believe me, it's the most exciting and spiritually satisfying journey you can undertake in this life. Now, I want to stress we continue to take our tours. They're fully attended, and they are always peaceful. At 43-some tours, we haven't seen an incident. Israel really is a country of neighborhoods like this one is, and we kind of know where the action is and where it's not. The biblical sites, fortunately, are well away from the troubled area, at least the ones we can go and see. So, I would encourage you to see this for yourself. You cannot get the truth, simply cannot, from American media. I mean, it's just the other way. What you read in the New York Times or CNN especially, NPR, the National Public Radio, and so on, believe the opposite and you'll be a lot closer to the truth. Joni, I've got some media stuff here. I've got news clippings I pulled that are sort of representative, 3 over the last few weeks. One was Jesse Jackson's visit to Hebron. A violent street uprising, this is from Los Angeles Times, it's quoted in the Dallas Morning News. A violent street uprising erupted near the site of the Cave of the Patriarchs massacre Friday, when the Reverend Jesse Jackson attempted to lead a march into the mosque. This is a Christian minister leading a Muslim march into the mosque. and landed in a hailstorm of flying rocks and tear gas. Mr. Jackson perched atop the roof of a car, trying to get the young Arabs to mouth the words, "Keep hope alive." But the crowd, after a few futile attempts, broke into deafening shouts of Allahu Akbar. The Muslim cry, "God is great," but that's not the God we're talking about in our parlance. Finally, then, Yassir Tamimi, a cleric from the Islamic fundamentalist group Hamas. This is the murderous terrorist group who accompanied Mr. Jackson and who is prayer leader of the Hebron Mosque, broke into a smile as the restive crowd lurched toward the soldiers and unleashed a hail of stones. "The people are wonderful," he said quietly. You live a few miles away from there. What's your comment?
Some people are blind no matter what.
How can a religious leader say these people are wonderful when they're throwing stones at authorities, whether they like the authorities or not? The soldiers aren't there to make things worse. They're there to control things.
Well, obviously he has something else to gain.
Jackson probably is gaining publicity, but why does a Muslim imam or whatever he is think that these kids are wonderful when they're throwing rocks and so forth? I mean, I don't think a rabbi would think that of Jewish kids if they were doing that. And I don't think a Christian minister would think that. Is there something in their mentality that makes heroes of these kind of...
Hatred. So, pure hatred can make anyone say, if you do that, then you're wonderful, because you are going to destroy that which we don't want.
To be fair, some Orthodox Jewish people went to the gravesite of Baruch Goldstein, the lunatic who did shoot people in that mosque,
Right.
and made a hero of him. So some of the Jewish people were as bad as some of the Palestinians.
Well, there's always that faction in life. Pure hatred on either side is not going to be the answer, only pure love.
Let me go on with that story. No Muslims have been permitted to enter the sacred site since the massacre, which Mr. Jackson proclaimed, like Calvary for Christians, could be a turning point for the Palestinians. That's a new one on me, comparing the prayer there at the mosque to the Calvary, for heaven's sake.
I can't even see the connection.
No, I have a little trouble with that one, too. Jackson's really trying for some headlines, and you know what? He got them. Further in the media, love, hate, and U.S. public radio. This is from the Jerusalem Post International Edition, week ending April 30th. Oh, it's just a story of the double standard of the news, how they report it. Attacks against Jewish civilians, especially those living in the territories, like you, are minimally reported as a rule. The Jews can be killed out there and nothing is said, virtually.
I think that's quite true. It's very often that I'll call to the United States and speak to someone, and I'll say, "Didn't you hear?" And they'll say, "No," but they sure have heard anytime something happened to an Arab.
Yeah. It goes on here to compare. It says, particularly shocking instances of the double standard in treatment of the deaths of Jews and Arabs were the cases of Anton Shamili and Helena Rapp, an Arab and a Jew, respectively, killed within a week of each other in May 1992. 22-year-old Shamili, who had been a member of the radical Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine, was shot by soldiers. Okay, he chose to be out there on a battlefield, arguing, fighting with the soldiers. 15-year-old Helena Rapp was stabbed to death by an Arab at a bus stop.
She's not the only one, Zola.
Oh, I know it. But for this comparison, they picked those two because it happened in the same week. Now they pick on a reporter named Gradstein of National Public Radio. Gradstein reported the latter event, the Jewish event, which aroused particular horror in the U.S. in 4 peremptory sentences, 3 of them critical of Israelis for their angry reaction. It was Anton Shamili who aroused the reporter's interest. In a sympathetic 80-sentence account, Gradstein extolled the man who was, quote, quick to tell a joke and laugh, and who had left behind a crippled father and desolate family.
Once again, as you said, the double standard.
Why?
This young girl, very innocent, going to school in the morning, is killed, stabbed to death. What did she do? She was going to school.
See, we didn't really hardly hear of it, and I wouldn't have heard of it. 4 sentences in a newspaper can elude you, especially if the theme of them is Israelis again stormed the parliament over an incident on a bus stop. The emphasis being that way.
The innocent civilians in Israel that are being killed constantly is mind-boggling. You know, if you're after the army, that's one thing, but innocent people.
The army, armed people haven't been the specialty of the PLO in the past, have they?
No.
I've got the New York Times of today. A wall falls in Jericho, May 5th. It may be days, weeks, or even months before Israelis and Palestinians grasp the meaning of the Autonomy Accords signed in Cairo yesterday. Wouldn't it be good, Joni, if the reporters from the New York Times could come over and explain it to you Aborigines that don't understand anything? There is this tendency of our media to look down on Israel, a 4,000-year-old nation. Mm-hmm. We are a 200-year-old nation. And young reporters savage whoever they please in print. This has happened to me, and I'm sensitive about it. When I went to Indiana University, my alma mater, the newspaper there, the Indiana University Daily Student, sent an Arab reporter to cover my speech, which was, whose land is it, Israel or Palestine? And naturally, I thought he would criticize the speech. I expected that. Actually, he stooped to calling me idiotic and moronic and despicable. I mean, it was the typical Arab attack. Well, then I contacted the editor. I wanted equal space to reply, and that's normal. And the editor said, fine, write 700 words. He gave me exact specifications, send a picture, and so on. I did that, sent it. And I called the editor back. I said, was it all right? Yes, it ran exactly in the space I had fitted for it. It was perfect. Thanks a lot. No problem. I said, could I have a tear sheet, a clipping of it? Sure. Never came. I sent someone actually in Bloomington, Indiana, to the Daily Student to get me the clipping finally, because I thought, well, the guy's busy and he just puts it off and I'll never get it. It never did run. He was just lying. The editor of the paper not only wouldn't run the Jewish View or the Answer, he actually would lie about it to subvert me and get me off the subject. We're still in touch with the university, and we are going to continue to publicize this till the article runs, or at least point out the major anti-Semitic thrust of the Daily Student, and writing to the administration, even the chancellor of the place. I'm simply told we're not responsible. Nobody up here is responsible. The administration isn't, the university isn't, the student, the newspaper can say what it wants. As a former cultural editor of the IU News Bureau, I know that's not the truth. The faculty advises the student and ought to be given better advice than that. Okay, that's a personal story of the same idea. The reporter knows best. The people out there are a bunch of dummies. They call the Israelis and the Palestinians bitter antagonists. In my view, I meet very few Israelis that hate anybody. Antagonism seems to come from the other side, or am I biased?
I don't think it's a question of being biased here. I'm sure there's plenty of antagonism on the Israeli side also because of survival, and yet the Palestinians, or so-called Palestinians, they also want to survive. So it's a question really of survival.
But the antagonism of the PLO, I mean, it says also in the article that propitiously the World Bank and the PLO have hammered out a 3-year aid program drawing on $2.4 billion in pledges from 40 donor countries. Am I crazy, or is the PLO a terrorist organization and that's what it's known for?
Absolutely.
Why do 40 countries go ahead and support this? And it says further, Israel's new clout is directly related to its willingness to yield land for peace on the West Bank and to engage the only Palestinian leader, Arafat, with international standing. Isn't his international standing as a terrorist?
It has been.
When was he a statesman? When did this happen? It's alchemy.
Self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed. Yeah, I heard part of the...
wanted to be president also.
That was part of the argument over the signing is his title, right?
Right.
I think Grand High Potentate or Pasha or, I mean, well, this man is a simple murderer who comes to the United Nations with a gun in his shirt.
And a military uniform.
Yeah. I'll never forget that Jerusalem Post reported said it's a very smart uniform. What army is he with?
Exactly. Exactly.
There's no army. Everybody else has a sheet on, and he has the uniform.
And yet Rabin is Minister of Defense also. So, I mean, if anyone wants to wear a uniform, why not Rabin?
Why not Rabin? Well, Joni, I can't thank you enough. You always have an educated view, being there every day and a real West Bank settler. You don't have a gun. You don't want to go out and kill somebody. You just want to live in peace, I think. I appreciate your help, all the help you've given us over the years. She has been a dancer, doing interpretive dance on our program, political commentator, a hostess to our groups, and so on. So thanks for stopping by on this occasion.
My pleasure.
You know, Israel is very important. People write me letters, oh, get off it, you know. Not at all. I've before invited you, if you don't like this subject, watch some other program. I just don't know what else to say. In my belief, you know, the most important thing is the Great Commission, that we make disciples of all nations. Second is Israel. If your church doesn't think that, you're missing a lot of the fun these days, put it that way. I want to rally the people to fight Matthew 24:9. What do I mean? Matthew 24:9 is where the Lord lamented on the Mount of Olives, ye shall be hated of all nations. And that's what's happening to Israel. The 40 nations that got together to support the PLO. First time I've ever heard of 40 countries getting together to give some murderers some money to make a country on other people's land. That's all I see. But, you know, that's for the unbelievers. That's what I mean. Fight it because it's a characteristic of the tribulation period unbeliever, not of the church, not of the believers. For heaven's sake, if we're not with Israel, then we're fighting the household. We want to burn down the household of the family who has adopted us. If we're Christians, we're adopted into Israel. We receive the inheritance of Abraham, which is the land of Israel, for one thing. And this will be the home of our kingdom for 1,000 years. Gosh, this could start happening 7 years from today. You know, you go there to live 1,000 years. You really want to have Palestinian policemen there? I mean, the kingdom will be different. The Lord will clear it out. It will be changed. But still in all, is it the right thing? Our offer tonight has everything to do with the subject, Israel's right to the land book. We've offered this package many times. I wish you'd get it. The Israel package, if you like. Israel's right to the land, the Pilgrim's map. You'll have a lot of fun looking at Israel on this map that's very filled in with biblical names and so on. And the Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem bumper sticker. Put this on your bumper. Why not? If enough people pray, maybe it'll happen. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the thing I say at the end of every program. $10 for the whole package, and that's shipping, handling, everything. I want you to get it. Send us a $10 bill, you have it. Call us at 1-800-WONDERS, and you have it. And remember the funds. Okay, that's how we really make the programs. We've got to get back over there and report on location, and we plan to do that with your generous giving. Thank you. And Sha'alu, Shalom, Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.